Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. Today it's going to be especially important for you to check in the description below the video, because not only will you find the usual social media locations where you can get my patterns, learn how to join Watch Barbara Knit, and learn how to support me on Patreon, you will also find the written out instructions, just the basic whatever is on the screen, copied down on how to make this new free pattern. So I decided it was time to do another tiny shawl. Tiny shawl! It's tiny shawl time. But I decided to do something different this time. This time I asked a friend of mine who is also an amazing shawl designer. Her name is Jen Lucas. She wrote Sock Yarn Shawls and Sock Yarn Shawls 2, and then like 7 other books. She's an amazing designer, but she has an incredible way with shawls. And I pointed out in one of my videos, I'm like, hey Jen, would you like to do one so that I could knit it up and have fun learning this new pattern and maybe learn some new things? And then it could just be fun because my viewers seem to like these tiny shawls, and she was all for it. So as with my other tiny shawls, there will be I'm going to step by step. You can watch me knit. I'm going to take it through you. Also on the screen, there will be the instructions so you can understand how I'm reading the instructions. The information will be just the copy of those instructions will be in the description below, but also in the description below will be a link Jen agreed to, as I have done in the past, to make a cheat sheet PDF for it, which will have additional information about needles and yarn and yardage and gauge, and it written up in a way that you can print out and use. And that is going to be, I'll link to it, a pattern available. It only costs $2. You know, it takes a little time to put those things together, so it's just a little bit. So if you want the cheat sheet, click on that link. Now this one is different in that on that cheat sheet there will be 2 different patterns, because what we are talking about today is wedge shawls. And I'm going to have a section explaining wedge shawls. And I'm going to put a little link right here with a timestamp. So if you want to just go ahead and jump ahead to the wedge shawl explanation, you can do it. And I'm going to make 2 videos. This video is to make the 3-panel shawl, and then there'll be a separate video to make the 2-panel shawl, which is essentially a top-down triangle. The videos just got too long to have both information in it, but the single PDF will have both sets of information in it. And you may have already seen that video. So if you want to skip ahead right now to the instructions for doing the 3-panel shawl, I'm going to put a timestamp right here, and that's where you jump ahead to the instructions for the shawl. But if you haven't already seen that video, or if you would just want to keep watching, then you can continue here. And I want to show you my super cute model, as always, how this I call them 3/4. It's a 3 wedge shawl. And as you can see, isn't it spiffy? It is great because it wears so well. You have the straight across the back, and then these 2 panels come along the front, and you've got your increased lines, and they just lay really nice. So a 3/4 shawl, a 3 wedge shawl, is actually a very wearable design. Now it takes more yarn than a top-down triangle does, because you've got this whole other wedge, and that's what we're going to be talking about, how these 3 wedges come to be. I am using Dos Tierras. The yarn that I knit mine up in is a DK weight yarn, and I used a size 7 needle. How much yarn would you need to do this? How big do you want it? The way these shawls work is you need to decide what needle size you want to use and what yarn you want to use. You can do this with any yarn and any needle that you like the combination. For a shawl, you usually want to do it a little looser than one would typically think. So if you're going to do fingering weight, you're probably going to want to do it on a 5, not a 1. Otherwise, it's going to be stiff because a 1 gives you a sock. And then, so if you're going to do worsted weight, you might want to look at an 8, maybe a 9. It depends on your gauge. But what you want is you want drape. You want a little bit of floopiness because shawls are supposed to be floopy. They're supposed to drape. So this is the video for the 3-panel wedge shawl from Jen Lucas. And there will be a follow-up video that shows you step by step how to do the 2-panel shawl. But first, we are going to discuss what exactly a wedge shawl is. And I'm going to put this information in both videos. So there's going to be some redundancy through the videos, which is why I originally gave you those timestamps. So let's get on with the shawl. A wedge shawl. It's a shawl made out of wedges. But what does that mean? I've done a little arts and crafts to try to explain it better. So what you have to visualize is you're starting up here with your cast on. Maybe 4, 3, something in that range, whatever. And what we're doing is you're actually knitting in this direction, okay? So you cast on, and then on your right side rows, you're going to work your selvage stitches, increase, center stitches, increase, selvage stitches. So what we're doing is we're increasing 2 stitches every right side row. So it'd be like knit 2, yarn over, knit 2, yarn over, knit 2. That's what's being represented here. On the wrong side row, you're just doing whatever, knitting, doing your texture, whatever you're doing. You're not increasing is the key. And what these represent, these little things, is every right side row, we're going to increase by 2 stitches, 1 on each edge. And as you can see, when you increase 1 on each edge, it grows like this and makes a triangular shaped wedge. Okay, so this is your basic instructions if you want to do a bottom up triangle, and it makes this very, I think the word's equilateral triangle. Don't quote me on that. Geometry, not my strong suit. The fun and magic comes is when you combine wedges. So instead of just starting with this and doing those increases, when you do this, see? So instead of just on the edges, we're doing yarn over, knit a couple, yarn over, center spine is what they call it, a spine stitch, yarn over, knit a few, yarn over on the edge. So now we're increasing 4 stitches every right side row. And they still grow like this, but they're growing like that side by side. And now you have what is called a top-down triangular shawl. When you wear it, it looks like that. It always seemed, it's hard to visualize that what happens is as you're making these triangles, you get these 2 straight edges. But when the triangles are oriented this way, or the wedges are oriented this way, that's why you get this long, straight neckline and a point down the spine. Okay? But wait, there's more. Woo! If we bring in a 3rd wedge, let me get this. I don't know if the whole thing will fit in here. But what you're doing again, we're starting right here, your cast on, and then your right side rows are going to look like knit a couple selvage, yarn over, center panel, yarn over, spine stitch, yarn over, center panel, yarn over, spine stitch, yarn over, center panel, and then a yarn over on an edge. So we're still doing 2 increases every right side row per wedge, but in total, it's 6 stitches per right side row oriented on edge, spine, spine, edge. Okay? And that gives you this 3/4 square shawl. And it's actually really an easy shape to wear because when you wear it, you can do this part on your back, and these parts with their long triangles go over the shoulders, or you can orient it this way with this over one shoulder, and then these pieces wrap around your neck, and it gives you an almost cape-like effect. So, and obviously, if we kept on going, in theory, you can keep on going with wedges and add in another one, and then we get a full square, right? But if you're knitting it flat, it would go wedge, 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 and then you do your wrong side, and you'd be going round and round, and you'd have one opening here, right? So you got that opening there where your head goes or your neck goes, and then you've got a full square shawl that has an opening for your neck. And to just complete it, if you do this in the round, and you're increasing 2, 4, 6, 8 stitches along spines every right side row, you get a square. So that is, and in theory, I didn't make another one, you could keep on going, you could add a 5th wedge. And if you're knitting flat, it would just make an overlap. Knitting round, you'd make up some sort of non-flat thing that I don't know if you could wear it. But hey, it might be worth experimenting. But what we are looking at is the instructions to make a 3 wedge shawl or a 2 wedge shawl. Jen Lucas designed this to start with a garter tab, and if you would like to do the garter tab, you can check in the description below for a link to her instructions to do that. I am going to start an option, and they have just different looks. I'm just going to, and she provided it as an option, to just simply cast on 11 stitches. I'm going to cast on those 11 stitches, and I'm going to use the long tail cast on. You can use whatever cast on you want. To determine my tail, I'm going to take this and wrap it around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's about enough yarn for 11 stitches, and then I need about a 6-inch tail to weave in. I'm going to make a slip knot, which you wrap your yarn around your finger, make an X, pull out a loop, grab that yarn, and pull it through like that. There will be a link in the description below to a long tail cast on video if you need more information on that. Now we have this yarn, which is going to our working yarn, and this is the tail. We put our needle in there, hold it like the slingshot with your working yarn going over your pointer finger and the other yarn going over your thumb. You go under, around, that's 2 because our slip knot counts as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then I've got a yarn left to weave in. So that's 11 stitches. We have 3 setup rows, and the first one is a wrong side row. So it doesn't even really have a name, it's just the quote-unquote next row. And the next row is simply to knit all stitches. This is always, the one right after the cast on is always the most challenging one. So as usual, insert your needle from left to right to knit, wrap your yarn counterclockwise, and simply knit 11 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wah, ha, 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 ha. So that is our first wrong side row. Gonna switch our yarn, our needles in the other hand. Now for row 1 of the setup. This is our first row. We're going to set up, we're going to place our stitch markers so that we have our instructions and guide points for further rows. So to start with our selvage, we're going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, ha ha ha. So that's knit 3. Now, if you look at the instructions on the bottom of the screen, we're going to have a repeat. That open bracket is telling you that the next set of instructions are going to be repeated. So we've got open bracket. So we're going to place a marker, stitch marker, and that is going to designate the end of our selvage. And then we're going to yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, place another marker, which will mark our first spine, knit 1, which is our spine stitch. Okay, now that is the end of the repeat. You see that after it says this is the spine stitch, there's a close bracket. And then it says the word twice, which tells me I've worked that once. Now I have to take that bracket and go back to the beginning. So the next thing I'm supposed to do is place marker, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, place marker, and here comes the knit 1 that is my second spine stitch because we're doing the 3 wedge shawl. Okay, and that was the end because knit 1, it says this is a spine stitch, and then we have our closed bracket, so we've done it twice. Then it wants us to place another marker, which denotes the other side of that spine stitch, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, and we're going to place our final marker, which indicates we're getting ready to start our selvage, which is knit 3. 1, 2, 3. And that is our setup row. So we had our knit 3, place marker, there's our yarn over, knit 1, yarn over. This knit 1 is going to be the beginning of the first panel. Then we have marker, spine stitch, marker, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over. This is the beginning of the center panel. We have a stitch marker, knit 1. This is the second spine, yarn over, knit 1. That's the beginning of the third panel, yarn over, place marker, knit 3. And that is our left or following selvage. That is your first setup row. We're going to flip it over and get ready for our second setup row, which is a wrong side row. And oh, by the way, we increased 6 stitches, so we have a total of 17. We started with 11. Now let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Haha, as if someone planned it that way. And guess what? Setup row 2 is knit. That's all you got to do. So you knit 17. Now, we will come to stitch markers, but the stitch markers aren't really marking anything on this side. So when you come to them, and see, as you can see, since we're working so tiny, it's going to be a little fiddly. Just slip them. Take them from the left-hand needle onto the right-hand needle because we need what they're marking. So knit, knit. Now, be careful of that. See how that yarn over is kind of going over? That's because of the style of stitch marker I'm using. You know that this stitch marker is supposed to be marking the spine stitch. So make sure that you have the stitch marker where it belongs. Don't let it cheat and jump out of its place. Still knitting along. There we go. The yarn over first, then the marker, then the spine stitch, then the marker, then the yarn over. There we go. Slip that final, we know we're to our selvage. So that was simply knit 17. We're going to turn it over. Now this is our right side. I'm going to do something here that I'm always telling you all to, oops, see, it flipped around. Okay. That I'm always telling you all to do. Take a locking stitch marker. Slide this over here so I can see it. And I'm going to put this in with the right side facing me. I'm going to put it in one of these stitches so that I will always know what the right side is. Once I get a little bit more fabric, I'll probably move it down because it's a little fiddly here, but I'm going to stick it right there just so I know what side is the right side. Now, we have done all the setup. We have our little necklace of stitch markers. And it is time for what Jen has called row 3, which is the beginning of our repeated section. So we're going to get a little more yarn. We're going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and then our next abbreviation is slip, SM, slip marker. So you just slip it from here to here. And what that marker is telling us is that the next stitch is going to be a yarn over. So we're going to yarn over, and then the instructions say knit to next marker. So we're going to knit all the stitches until we come to our next marker. And in this case, that was 3 stitches. We're going to yarn over, slip marker, knit 1. As you saw, remember what those brackets mean. See, now it says twice, close bracket, twice. So we got to do that all over again. So the next thing we do is slip marker, yarn over, knit to next marker, 2, get out of there, 3, yarn over, slip marker, knit 1. So that is the end. That is the twice. We did that twice because it was inside brackets. So now the third thing we're going to do is the next thing it says is slip marker, yarn over, knit to last marker. Okay. Yarn over, slip marker, knit 2, 3. We have increased 6 stitches. So the previous one was 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. There you go. We added 6 stitches. That was row 3. Let's go to row 4. And again, as it gets bigger, all these stitch markers will be a little less annoying. If you don't like dangly stitch markers, that might reduce the annoyance factor. So row 4 is a wrong side row, and the instructions are knit 3, knit 1, knit 2, knit 3, and then it says purl to the last 3 stitches. Again, the assumption is we are going to slip our markers. So slip the marker, 1, we're going to purl all the way to the last marker. here we are, the last 3 stitches, which also coincidentally are right at this last marker. So we're going to slip that and then knit 3. 1, 2, 3. That finished row 4, the wrong side. We're going to flip it over. I'm going to scooch it down. Get all these stitch markers in the back. That's telling you what side the right side is. And here we are. We're building up that edge. See how it has that beautiful decorative yarn over? And then, look at that. Okay. Row 5 is exactly the same as row 3. In fact, all of the right side rows are exactly the same. So we're going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, slip 1. Now here's our repeated section, open bracket. Actually, the slip 1 was inside of the open bracket. Yarn over, knit to next marker, yarn over before the marker, slip the marker, knit your spine stitch, slip the marker. That was the beginning of the second repeat. Yarn over, knit to your next marker. Just knit all those stitches. Yarn over, slip the marker. If it wants to cooperate, come here, booger. Okay, it's not cooperating. There we go. Slip the marker, knit 1, slip the marker. Did I do my yarn over? Yes. Yarn over, knit to last marker, yarn over, slip 1, knit 3. So that is row 5. We have increased 6 stitches, and those 6 stitches, so there's the 1 stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. See, those yarn overs are your increases. If you'd like to count, go ahead. You should have, so we started with 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, then we had 23. So now we should have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 29. See, I don't count well. Now, flip over to our wrong side. Row 6 is exactly the same as row 4. We are going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and then slip our marker, because if they don't tell you what to do with it, you just kind of go with it, and then we're going to purl to the last 3 stitches. We've reached that last yarn over and that last stitch marker. Slip that stitch marker, knit 3. 1, 2, 3. And that finishes row 6. Okay, flip it over. Take a look at it. Looking good. We're starting to build up this stockinette panel. There's the first panel. There's the center panel. And I'm going to move my locking stitch marker up here where it's much more visible. So that tells me which side, did that lock? Don't be a booger. So that tells me which side is the front, because it's on the front, and there's the third panel. So it's definitely building up. See? Get those stitch markers. We're starting to get our 3 panels. Now for row 7, as I said, all these right side rows are exactly the same. Okay? You're going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3. Beginning of our repeat, slip your marker, knit. You might say, Barbara, there should have been a yarn over there. And yes, there should have been a yarn over there. Just imagine when you're doing this, you need to make a yarn over after you slip that marker. And honestly, you'll get to laugh at me in a just a few more minutes. To next marker, knit, knit, knitty, knit, 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 knit. And we got one more stitch. Okay, yarn over, slip marker, knit 1. That was our spine stitch. We're ready to start the second repeat of the twice, which is slip marker, yarn over, knit 2 next marker. We're knitting to the next marker. There we go. Slip that marker. Nope, I did it wrong. Put that marker back, yarn over, then you slip the marker. Now, I almost made that mistake, and I'm going to tell you what would happen if you did that. What happens is, since we're yarn overing before the marker, get out there, this center panel is growing. If I had slipped the marker and then yarn over, it would start growing inside the markers and create another wedge, and that's not what we want to do. So just watch which side of that marker your yarn over is on. So then we got to slip our marker. Now we're on the edge, slip our marker, yarn over, knit to the last marker. Oops, almost missed that stitch. Yarn over, slip 1, knit 1, a 2, a 3. There we go. Row 7, Dunsky. As you can see, still growing. Now row 8 is where things get a little bit of a change up. Get the yarn. Now, this is something I went over in my mistakes a lot of knitters make. Don't do this, because look, that makes you think you have 2 stitches. You got to make sure your yarn is under that needle so your stitch is oriented correctly for you to get ready to knit this next row, which row 8 is simply, instead of purling, just knit all the stitches. Ha, ha, ha. This is the easiest thing. So just knit all these stitches. You don't have to count anything. Although now, if you are a counting kind of person, it would be where you made sure you had all your increases. Slip your markers as you go along and knit all these stitches. Come here. Make sure you got the yarn over, slip marker, knit 1, slip marker, yarn over. Just make sure those yarn overs are in their proper location. Nope, nope, nope. Stick back out through there. There we go. Knit. And a knit. And a knit. And another knit. And we're knitting to the marker. Now, the reason why people write with all these markers is because otherwise, since the stitch changes every single right side row, you'd have to write out every single row of the pattern. And that would just get completely unwieldy. 1, a 2, a 3. There we go. We knit. This is the wrong side because it doesn't have my marker on it, and you can see it's reverse stockinette. Flip that puppy over. We just finished row 8. Get all my stitch markers to the back. And looky there, we now have a garter row. See? It just gives you a nice little texture there. So we have this panel of stockinette and a little bit of texture. Our last right side row in our repeat, which is row 9, is, guess what? The exact same as all the other ones. Woohoo! Because it's super easy. So, knit with 1, knit 2, knit 3, slip your marker, doop, yarn over, knit to your next marker, doop-de-doop-de-doo. Get to that next marker, get a little bit more yarn, yarn over, slip that marker, knit 1, slip that marker, yarn over, knit to next marker. Here we go. And we're knitting to the marker. And you can see this gets fairly easy to memorize. So yarn over, slip 1, the marker, slip the marker, not slip 1. Knit your center spine, slip your marker, yarn over, knit to your next marker. You can see why you're not going to watch me do this whole thing, because these rows, they get long. Knit to the next marker, yarn over, slip the marker, knit 3, 2, 3. That ends row 9. And then row 10 is the same as row 8. Knit all the stitches. Flip it over. Grab your yarn. Making a little bit of a fuzz mess there. This has got a little alpaca in it. That happens. So we're just going to knit all of our stitches, slipping the markers as we come to them. Here we are at the end of the row, the final 3 stitches, and that is our repeat. And you can see now, because it's on my needles, it's curving, but this will block out to be our 3 wedge shawl, and it'll look exactly like this, just bigger. We've got our setup, then we have our panel. Now what's going to happen now is you've worked, this is rows 3 through 10. You're simply going to go back to row 3 and work 3 through 10 again. And what you will get is this stockinette and then your garter ridge, and then stockinette and then your garter ridge. And it will just keep going until it is as big as you want it to be. As you want to check, you want to make sure you have these nice straight rows of yarn overs. See how they are? Yarn over, yarn over, yarn over. And you look down the center, yarn over, yarn over, yarn over. See how that looks? Just make sure it still looks like that all the time. Okay? See? Huh. Actually, it looks like I might have missed a yarn over. See how funny that looks right there? It looks like I missed an edge yarn over. How can we check that? Well, let's see how many yarn overs I'm supposed to have. I'm going to go over here. I'm supposed to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, can you see what I counted there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many yarn overs do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. I only have 4 yarn overs. So yeah, right there, I missed a yarn over at some point. So, what I can do, you would either need to frog back and go backwards, or trying to do this at the edge is a little bit on the tricky side. Going to transfer these stitches. 1, 2, 3. This one, so it would have been below here. Where would this stitch have gone? It would have been between these 2 stitches. So this is my wrong side row I just finished. Right side row, wrong side, so right side row. So then I got 1, 2, 3. This is where my yarn over should be. So I'm going to pick up here. See right there? That should be a yarn over. So what I'm going to do is stick this needle under here and pull it through, right? So I've made that. Stick it through there. And then I need to get to this next. Don't do this at home, kids. There we go. Pop it over. And so we're looking good. Again, it's supposed to increase by 6 stitches every right side row. So if you're a counter, you can do the counting thing. But again, just repeat rows 3 through 10 until it's as big as you would like. Okay, I knit one more repeat, and this is going to be the end of my tiny shawl, but you would work as many as you wanted, as many repeats as you wanted, and you can see there's the stockinette and then the bumps and the stockinette and the bumps. But what we're going to do is we are going to do the bind off that Miss Jen has assigned to us. If you wanted to and you knew it was your last row, you could have removed your stitch markers on that last row, but I did not. So her instructions for binding off is knit together through the back loop. So we're going to insert this needle through the back loop of the next 2 stitches and knit them together. Okay. Take the stitch from the right needle back to the left hand needle and then knit those 2 stitches together. And there we go. And now I'm going to drop that stitch marker, and then we're going to put this stitch back, and we're going to knit those 2 together. And you're supposed to do this loosely. So we're going to stick that stitch back, insert through those back stitches, wrap your yarn, pull it through. Take it, put it back, insert, wrap, pull it through, and see we've bound off those stitches. Going to, gotta put that one back, insert, bind them off, put it back, knit, insert your needle through those back loops, pull it through, you've bound them off. So I'm going to keep on doing that. And there we go. I finished the bind off. I actually love the look of it, but I think I did it a little too tight. When she says do it loosely, definitely do it loosely. You might even want to go up a needle size. So use your right hand needle, go up a needle size to loosen that up a bit. I am going to block this, and honestly, you've probably already seen it in the intro, but I'm excited to see how it looks. So that is the 3 wedge shawl, and I made it tiny, but you can make it as big as you want. The only limit is your time and the amount of yarn you got. I hope you enjoyed that video. It is, as again, a 3-panel wedge shawl, and I thank you, Jen Lucas, so much for playing with me and having fun. I really enjoyed making your shawl. You made some choices that were really educational for me and different from what I would have done, which is super fun. And make sure, everyone, check out Jen's amazing shawls. Check out all the links in the description below and watch for the triangle shawl that will, the 2 wedge shawl that will be coming up soon. Honestly, these videos take a lot of work, so it's not going to be next week probably, but coming up soon, maybe next month. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, click that like button, and if you would like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, please subscribe to my channel and select notifications. Thank you so much.